On the night of February 8, 1995, an FBI agent aboard a helicopter flying over New York City pulled the blindfold off his high-value prisoner. The agent pointed toward the World Trade Center, taunting the captive that the Twin Towers were still standing. The prisoner replied, with absolute calm, "They wouldn't be if we had more money." Welcome back to the channel. If you want to understand how modern terrorism evolved, make sure to subscribe. Today, we are opening the file on the engineer who developed the blueprint for the late 20th century. That response in the helicopter was a mathematical projection. It was an objective statement of structural physics and funding that would eventually inform the deadliest attack in American history. In the early 1990s, United States intelligence viewed terrorism as a largely crude regional threat. The typical profile of a bomber was someone with low education, using primitive tactics, operating far away from American soil.
But Ramzi Yousef, believed to have been born Abdul Basit in Kuwait, did not fit that profile. In 1989, he graduated from the Swansea Institute in the United Kingdom with a degree in computer-aided electrical engineering. This diagram shows the lethal synthesis he created. Yousef took his formal university education, his understanding of circuits and schematics, and traveled to militant training camps on the Afghan-Pakistani border. He merged academic rigor with tactical instruction. In September 1992, he put that methodology to work. Yousef landed at JFK International Airport carrying a forged Iraqi passport. Overcrowded holding cells and loopholes in the immigration system meant that border officials simply processed his request for political asylum and let him walk out of the airport a free man. Security systems of the era were designed to identify street-level criminals and known state operatives.
A methodical architect with academic credentials and no criminal record had easily bypassed the tripwires. Within months of arriving in New Jersey, Yousef mobilized. He gathered chemicals and wired a massive explosive device, eventually packing a rented Ryder truck with 1,500 pounds of urea nitrate. He drove it directly into the public parking garage beneath the World Trade Center. This schematic visualizes his structural objective. Yousef used the North Tower as a physical lever, applying enough explosive force to the base to topple it sideways into the South Tower. His intended death toll was 250,000 people. The structural physics failed to bring the towers down. But look at the aftermath in this photograph. The blast ripped a 6-story crater through the concrete basement levels, killing 6 civilians and injuring over 1,000 more. Yousef showed no emotional response to the carnage. Hours after lighting the fuse, he used a Pakistani passport to board a first-class flight and left the United States. The 1993 attack served as a critical logistics test. It proved that massive truck bombs were difficult to fund, construct, and conceal in a high-security environment. He needed a more efficient delivery system. To bypass ground security, Yousef moved his focus to commercial aviation.
In December 1994, he boarded Philippine Airlines Flight 434, bound for Tokyo. His chemical ingenuity allowed him to smuggle liquid nitroglycerin past airport security by disguising it inside a standard contact lens cleaning bottle. He assembled the detonator inside the airplane lavatory. He used a spark source, wiring, batteries hollowed into the heels of his shoes, and a standard Casio digital watch, exactly like the one in this photo, serving as the timer. He tucked the device under seat 26K and disembarked during a layover in Cebu. 4 hours later, the bomb detonated, killing a 24-year-old Japanese passenger named Haruki Ikegami. The pilot managed an emergency landing, saving the aircraft. Yousef treated the murder as a successful verification of his microbomb design. With his prototype verified, he retreated to a secretive apartment in Manila to draft his largest operation yet, Project Bojinka. This map outlines the scale of the Bojinka plot. Yousef planned to assassinate Pope John Paul II to create a global distraction. Then he would simultaneously blow up 11 American commercial airliners over the Pacific Ocean. A final phase involved crashing a plane into CIA headquarters in Virginia. Operation Bojinka represented a refinement of his methodology. He took the structural ambitions of the World Trade Center bomb and scaled these individual tests into a synchronized multi-theater network. In January 1995, a volatile chemical mixture ignited a fire in Yousef's Manila apartment. Thick smoke forced them to flee, abandoning their workspace. In his rush to escape, Yousef left behind an off-white Toshiba laptop. On the drive, investigators found detailed flight manifests, detonation timings for 11 airliners, and a draft of his claim of responsibility. The discovery triggered a Glurda manhunt. Weeks later, an associate turned him in for a reward.
American and Pakistani agents breached a guest house in Islamabad, capturing Yousef, with explosive-laden toy cars resting on his bed. Yousef was extradited to New York, convicted, and sentenced to life plus 240 years. He was sent to ADF Florence, the Supermax prison in Colorado, to live out his days in solitary confinement. The architect was securely in a cell, but the operational plan remained. The files extracted from the abandoned Manila laptop introduced a theoretical framework to the intelligence community, the logistics of using commercial passenger airplanes as guided missiles. When the Manila apartment was raided, one key conspirator managed to evade capture. It was Yousef's own uncle, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who inherited the laptop's philosophy. This chart tracks the tactical evolution. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed analyzed his nephew's blueprint and decided that liquid chemical explosives were too complex and prone to failure. He simplified the logistics, replacing chemical detonators with the relative certainty of suicide hijackers. Ramzi Yousef's legacy was the application of high-level engineering logistics to mass casualty attacks. He iterated and optimized his methods until he drafted the exact blueprint that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed would finalize on September 11, 2001.